So where the heck is all of this going? So essentially what we're seeing in the market, I'm sure everyone is noticing this as well. This survey was done about a month or closed about a month and a bit ago. So we're definitely noticing some of these trends even in the last 4 weeks coming into fruition, which is the fact that one, we need to keep in mind what gets funded gets done. So if you don't know where the money is, if you don't know how you're going to get funding, you can talk about AI. You can write the words AI into your strategy all you like. You're quite frankly not going to get anywhere. It's just going to be a very, very pretty strategy deck. Second thing is measure the right outcomes. Like ROI for HR is such a huge challenge right now and it's not going to happen in the moment. ROIs don't happen when you say, oh, I need to implement this solution. Let me draft a business case and boom, it's going to be implemented and I'm going to achieve that ROI. ROI in HR is non-linear. Sometimes you'll implement something in year 1 and you don't see the returns in year 3. So you really need to figure out what are the right outcomes you're going to go after. How long is it going to take you to get to those outcomes? And what are some of the stepping measurements, if you will, along the way that you can time sequence to be able to show ROI across all of the years, as opposed to say like, if I do X, I'm going to save you Y. Like life isn't that simple. Reality isn't that simple. And that's really a matter of truth for the outcomes. Third thing is get creative in the application of it. AI can apply to all facets of life. I'm sure you're probably unknowingly or knowingly using it in all facets of life at this point, which means that that can also be translated into the HR function. Fourth thing, focus on a problem. At the end of the day, AI is a cool piece of technology. It is still a means to the end. At the end of the day, HR is still there as part of the business. The reasons why businesses exist is shareholder, investor, and stakeholder value. And last but not least, double check your priorities. I would say make sure that whatever your organizational priorities are, figure out how your HR priorities play into it, because going all the way in full circle back into follow the money, typically we see organizations with more priority alignment between HR and corporation tends to get funded a lot better, and you're almost generating that ROI cycle yourself. Whew, okay, 4 minutes to go. So we went through a lot today. If you want a copy of the results, just go ahead and scan this QR code. You'll be taken to a webpage where you can download the full set of survey results. And Bennett, I think we've got a couple moments for questions.
Yes, we do. There's been a ton of commentary coming in. So we'll start with the one that just came in from Amy. So she just posted, do we need to put a disclosure somewhere if we use Gen AI, for example, to rewrite a job description? Interesting question.
So I think it's a lot more nuanced than do you need to put a description anywhere. So if you use ChatGPT to write a job description and you just slapped it into your ATS for whatever reason and posted that requisition, yes, I would highly recommend you to put in that disclaimer that you wrote it with Gen AI. But that said, if you're using Gen AI as a way to help you expedite the first 15% of your job description draft process, someone in HR is looking at it, business partners are looking at it, hiring managers looking at it. Once you apply that layer of human brain into it, technically I would say that's not a Gen AI product anymore. It's an AI assisted product with a human intelligence applied on top of that, in which case I wouldn't treat it any different than how you would any other typical job descriptions.
Yeah. Just a lot of great commentary that I was kind of spot picking and such. Yeah, for anyone who has specific questions, again, most importantly, I'm sure you'll have questions once you get through reading the detailed descriptions of each of the 5 major points that Lydia has brought up. There's a lot of supporting material there. So certainly, let's see if there's anybody else. Any other questions? Just some good, again, more good commentary. Governance becomes even more important according to and such. So I think that's a big topic about governance. Like, where does that fit into the journey of AI? We've heard about it a lot.
Okay, since we want to get spicy today, for whoever's listening to this, for a love of God, do not outsource your AI governance to IT. I mean, I love IT by all means. They are a phenomenal organization. There are things that are very nuanced about HR data, compliance, and everything else that they don't understand. nor typically have the capacity or patience for. So with that said, I think governance is incredibly important, and it's how you look at governance, right? So governance can be split into, what is the data governance side of it? Who owns what part of the data? What is the training governance? How do we determine how our data is getting trained? What is the security governance? Who is going to look at the info security pertaining to AI solutions, pertaining to our data usage, pertaining to everything else? What is the decision governance around it? Meaning, what are we going to feed to our managers? What are we going to feed to our workforce? And who is auditing the impact, adverse or otherwise, related to those pieces of information that can lead to a decision or lead to a conversation? So all said and done, I think everyone in the organization is responsible for governing AI. And more importantly, I think one thing that we don't talk enough about is how AI is going to fundamentally transform organizational structures and how we traditionally think about roles and responsibility across different functions, especially in terms of even within HR. If you think about where talent acquisition and talent management overlaps, if you think about where total rewards and HR operations overlaps, we've been lucky in a way to get away from addressing all of these overlaps. But in a way, I think AI is almost forcing us to have some of these conversations and understanding, if doesn't have to be done by a person anymore, what does B, C, D, E, F, G then look like? And what are some of the downstream process impacts? Again, going back to the governance in that regard.
So Leo just posed the question about kind of, how is AI going to help in building trust? His observations, AI responses seem rather cold and such. So, what have you seen from other companies who have implemented AI assistants in terms of how they've made it more human? Not to use that kind of cliche term, but how do they make it more personal, friendlier, approachable? Because some of them do feel like it's just kind of a static response. It's as good as your ATS automated email.
So step one, do not lop any Gen AI model or any chatbot over your existing knowledge base and be like, tada, we are done. That's an AI assistant. Good luck. This is how you get cold responses, right? Because if you think about how language models are trained and how certain instances of language models get tweaked on a per client basis, there's always models that will allow you to train for a culture, train for a personality. So the language that is used, the context that it is used in, for example, doesn't feel impersonal. It doesn't feel like you're talking to someone who's in a offshore call center, for lack of a better description, and has just been handed a script that tells you, I'm sorry, I cannot reschedule your flight today. Here's a $25 meal voucher. I'll see you in 12 hours type of thing. So very similar concept in a way, if you think about it, to how we historically have looked for our outsourcing providers for BPOs or anything like that. That's almost the same lens you have to look to your AI assistants when it comes to interacting with your employees. Not all of them are cut from the same cloth. Just because it's a piece of technology, all the language models and all of the coding that goes into training of those language models are so significantly different that it will impact the culture, the language, and just sort of the interactions that your employees are having with technology.
Great response. Excellent. Any other questions? Again, here's a QR code.